Welcome back to Movie Bite. Today we're diving into a masterpiece of biography, comedy, and raw human emotion. The brilliant 2011 drama, The End to Shabla. Heads up, major spoilers ahead. Our story begins late at night under the glittering lights of Paris, where a young man named Driss is speeding through the streets, driving his wealthy, paralyzed employer, Philippe. Bored by the slow traffic, Driss decides to floor it, weaving through cars, ignoring signs, and completely tearing up the asphalt. Naturally, the police are instantly on his tail. Unfazed, Driss bets Philippe €100 he can lose them, but plot twist. The cops ambush them under a bridge. Game over, not for Driss. He doubles down, betting €200 that the cops will actually escort them. Forced out of the car, Driss puts on an Oscar-worthy performance, acting completely outraged, claiming Philippe is having a massive seizure and shouting that they need to get to the emergency room immediately. The cops spot the wheelchair in the trunk, and when they look inside, Philippe starts convulsing on cue. Talk about teamwork. Convinced it's a life-or-death emergency, the officers completely buy the act and offer a full police escort. Bet 1. To celebrate, Driss blasts September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Once they arrive and the cops leave, the duo casually share a smoke. Driss smirks, promises he's got this, and hits the gas right before the actual hospital staff can catch them. So, how did this wild friendship even start? Let's rewind a few months. Philippe and his elegant assistant, Magali, are interviewing potential caretakers, and honestly, it's a total disaster. Every applicant is either painfully boring or deeply awkward, but then, the door flies open. Driss storms in, cutting the line entirely. He doesn't even want the job. He just needs a signature proving he was rejected so he can keep claiming his unemployment benefits. He's blunt, entirely filterless, and even aggressively flirts with Magali. Yet, instead of getting angry, Philippe finds this chaotic energy incredibly refreshing. He tells Driss to come back tomorrow for his papers. Driss returns to his chaotic apartment in a rough neighborhood. Trying to take a simple bath is a total nightmare with a small army of siblings running around. Saved only by his responsible older sister Mina. While waiting for their mother, Driss looks out the window and spots his younger brother, Adama, stepping out of a highly suspicious vehicle. Adama walks in, claims he was just at school, grabs his bag, and vanishes again. Driss knows the streets, and he knows his brother is sliding into deep trouble. Later that night, their mother arrives. Driss casually hands her a stolen Fabergé egg, lying that he's just been away on vacation. But she's not having it. He's been missing for 6 months without a single phone call, and now he expects to treat her home like a hotel. Exhausted by his endless lies and struggling to raise her other kids, she snaps, kicking him out of the house for good. Left with nowhere to go, Driss spends the night on the cold streets, sharing snacks and a smoke with neighborhood friends. Morning comes and Driss heads back to Philippe's mansion, strictly for his rejection papers. He's met by the housekeeper, Yvonne, who gives him a tour and lays out the daily routine. She also shows him the luxurious guest room, complete with a private, stunning bathtub. Driss is mesmerized. When he finally faces Philippe, he gets a surprise. Philippe hands him the signed paper, but follows it with a challenge, a real job opportunity. Driss accepts a 1-month trial while Philippe playfully bets he won't even survive 2 weeks. The game is on. Now, the real work begins. Driss has to learn the intense mechanics of caregiving, stimulating Philippe's legs, moving him into the wheelchair, and managing his clothes. But things get hilariously awkward when Driss realizes the job includes putting on compression stockings. And yes, wiping Philippe after he uses the restroom. Driss complains loudly, swearing he'll never do it. But ultimately, duty calls. Later that evening, while Driss is enjoying a peaceful snack on the roof, Philippe's bratty daughter Alyssa and her boyfriend Bastien show up looking for a private hookup spot. Driss firmly kicks them out and absolutely refuses to share his beer. Surprisingly, Driss adapts fast, even if the learning curve is steep. He makes classic, hilarious rookie mistakes, like absent-mindedly handing a ringing phone directly to a paralyzed man, or completely forgetting the baby monitor while relaxing in his beloved bathtub. He's also tasked with sorting the mail. Most of it is standard, except for a steady stream of highly private letters Driss is strictly forbidden to read. But when Driss stumbles across a flyer for an adult escort service, he ignores Philippe's orders to throw it away, creating a secret special file instead. It's not all work in this luxurious new life, though. Driss keeps shooting his shot with Magali, with zero success, and occasionally hires some company of his own to keep things lively. One morning, Yvonne busts into Driss' room to scold him for oversleeping, only to spot some highly questionable weapons in his bag. She keeps quiet, for now, today's task, driving Philippe to an appointment. But when Driss sees the wheelchair-accessible van, he refuses, arguing that Philippe is cargo. Instead, he uncovers one of the dusty, high-end sports cars in the garage. Philippe insists they should be practical, but as the engine roars to life, a spark of pure excitement lights up in his eyes, much to Yvonne's deep disapproval. As they try to leave, they find a neighbor illegally parked right in front of the driveway, completely ignoring the no parking sign. Driss doesn't do polite notes. He storms over, grabs the guy by his shirt, and violently scares him into moving the car immediately. Philippe is secretly thrilled by this raw directness, but Yvonne, still disapproving. Later at a museum, Philippe prepares to spend a fortune on modern art, which Driss ruthlessly mocks, calling it nothing but a random red blotch on a canvas. Afterward, a wealthy relative warns Philippe that Driss has a dark criminal record and a reputation for violence. But Philippe genuinely doesn't care about the past. What he loves about Driss is simple, zero pity, and a great sense of humor. Later, after another failed flirtation with Magali, Driss is having dinner with Yvonne while listening to Philippe dictate a highly poetic letter in the next room. Yvonne shuts off the baby monitor and lets Driss in on the big secret. Those mysterious letters are from a woman named Eleanor. They've been pen pals for months, sharing a deeply intellectual, purely epistolary romance. But they have never actually met. Driss teases Yvonne about the gardener's obvious crush on her before heading to bed. But late into the night, strange, distressing sounds echo through the baby monitor. Philippe is having a severe panic attack, struggling to breathe. Unable to ignore it, Driss rushes in. He gently calms Philippe down, using soothing words and a cool, wet cloth to soothe his face. Philippe drifts off but wakes up moments later, completely suffocated by phantom pain and desperate for fresh air. Driss doesn't hesitate. He gets Philippe into his chair, wraps him in warm blankets, and pushes him out into the crisp night air for a stroll along the Seine River. It's the first time Philippe has seen Paris at night in years. As the calm settles in, Philippe opens up, explaining that medication has its limits and the psychological phantom pain can be utterly agonizing. Watching a group of girls walk past, Philippe candidly admits his physical limitations, but notes that intimacy has shifted, revealing that his ears have become incredibly sensitive zones. When the phantom pain threatens to strike again, Driss pulls out a joint. Philippe is hesitant at first, but takes a hit and absolutely loves it. Completely relaxed, they hit a 24-hour restaurant, laughing and bonding as Philippe shares the tragic history of his life. He met his late wife during their university days. Tragically, after marriage, she suffered 5 miscarriages before being diagnosed with a terminal illness, which led them to adopt Alyssa. Seeking an escape, Philippe chased adrenaline through extreme sports, finding solace in paragliding. But one fateful day, a sudden storm caused a horrific crash, shattering his spine. Yet Philippe looks at Driss and says, the wheelchair isn't his true handicap. His real handicap is living without his wife. After a few more laughs lighten the mood, Philippe looks at the date and realizes something. Driss has officially passed his 1-month trial. He's officially hired. But there's a catch. Philippe gently demands the return of the stolen Fabergé egg. It turns out his wife gave him one every single year, a collection of 25, perfectly matching their time together. The next day, Driss tracks down Mina outside her school. She's annoyed that he's ignored her messages just to ask about the egg and warns him that the police have been calling their apartment. Later, Driss confronts Adama, who confesses he was caught carrying 30 grams of illegal substances. Driss tries to take his brother to lunch to straighten him out, but Adama refuses, stepping right back into that sketchy car. Back at the mansion, Driss listens to Philippe dictating another romantic letter to Magali. Driss finds this old-school poetry incredibly boring. Just be direct, he urges. He's absolutely stunned to hear they've been doing this for 6 months without ever exchanging photos. Spotting Eleanor's phone number on an envelope, Driss takes matters into his own hands. Dials the number and forces a panicked Philippe to finally talk to her in real life. The call goes beautifully. Soon, Philippe is practically glued to the phone, even right before they attend a high society opera, where Driss completely loses it, loudly laughing at the ridiculous costumes. The next day, Driss convinces Philippe to mail a photo to Alina, choosing an honest picture of him in his wheelchair. Later, as Driss tries his hand at painting, Alyssa bursts in demanding cigarettes, mocking his artistic ambitions. Annoyed, he kicks her out and goes to find Philippe, only to catch him asking Yvonne to swap the wheelchair photo for an old one from before his accident. Yvonne quickly hides the old photo inside Driss' secret escort file just as he storms in, complaining that Alyssa needs serious discipline, a sentiment Yvonne wholeheartedly shares. Philippe promises to speak to her, but he's far more intrigued by the fact that Driss has taken up painting. As days blend into weeks, their bond grows unbreakable. Driss takes Philippe to play in the snow and joins him on morning runs. In return, Philippe buys Driss his very first tailored suit, and finally reprimands Alyssa, while a proud Driss listens closely through the baby monitor. Proud of his finished artwork, Driss shows it to Magali, and gets a sharp slap across the face when he tries to sneak a kiss. Philippe, however, genuinely likes the piece and promises to help sell it. Life becomes a beautiful blur of fast cars, shared joints, and wild nights. But when Philippe's birthday arrives, the mood drops. He hates it. Every year, he has to fake surprise for a dry party filled with judgmental relatives who only visit to check if he's still breathing. Philippe sighs, expecting total boredom. While the guests politely endure a dull classical concert, Driss finds Alyssa crying in her room. She tried to swallow some of Yvonne's pills in a dramatic cry for help, all because Bastien dumped her and insulted her honor. She begs Driss to intervene and he agrees, for a small fee, of course. Meanwhile, downstairs, Philippe is working his magic, pitching Driss's abstract painting to a wealthy relative, and incredibly, sells it for a staggering 11,000 euros. Driss slips into the kitchen to chat with Yvonne, who drops a juicy rumor. Magali is dating someone named Fred, but their relationship is on the rocks. Hope is alive. As the formal party winds down, Philippe tries to introduce Driss to the timeless beauty of classical music, but Driss just cracks jokes. Once the classical band packs up, Driss takes over. He hooks up his iPod, blasts Boogie Wonderland by Earth, Wind, and Fire, and busts out some incredible dance moves right in the center of the room. His infectious energy transforms the room, convincing the stuffy guests to let loose and dance along, a sight that brings pure joy to Philippe. Later that night, while helping Philippe into bed, Driss opens Alina's latest letter. She enclosed a photo. She's absolutely stunning. And better yet, she wants to meet next week in Paris. When the big day arrives, Yvonne and Driss turn into fashion stylists, trying dozens of outfits until Philippe looks absolutely flawless. Since Yvonne is escorting Philippe to the rendezvous, Driss takes his day off to handle some business. Pays a little visit to Bastien, terrifying the boy into promising to apologize to Alyssa, bring her fresh croissants every single morning, and desperately fix his terrible haircut. Afterward, Driss visits his mother's workplace, quietly watching her from a distance with a heavy heart. Meanwhile, at the restaurant, Philippe waits nervously. An hour passes and Alina is nowhere to be found. Overwhelmed by panic and self-doubt, Philippe calls Driss to pick him up, abruptly leaving the restaurant, completely missing Alina, who walks through the door at that exact second. To escape the heartbreak, Philippe takes Driss on a midnight flight in his private jet, handing him the 11,000 euros from the painting sale, a life-changing moment for Driss. The next morning they arrive in the countryside, where Philippe decides it's time to go paragliding, dragging a terrified Driss along for the ride. Driss screams in pure panic at first, but as they soar through the clouds, he falls in love with the thrill. When they finally return home, Adama is waiting, and Driss immediately notices fresh scars on his little brother's face. Adama shuts down, refusing to reveal what kind of trouble he's in. Driss tells him to wait in his room, calls Mina to ease her mind, and goes to put Philippe to bed. But Philippe isn't ready to sleep. After reflecting on a piece of art together, Philippe gently asks about Driss's past. Driss hesitates, but finally cracks open his shell. He reveals a shocking truth. Adama isn't biologically his brother, and his parents were actually his aunt and uncle. They brought him over from Senegal when he was 8 because they couldn't conceive. His birth name was Bakari Bassari, later shortened to Driss. Eventually, his aunt miraculously gave birth, and after his uncle passed away, a chaotic cycle of new men and more children followed, leaving Driss to grow up fast in a fractured home. Recognizing the parallel to his own daughter's struggles, Philippe makes a heartbreaking, selfless decision. He tells Driss that Adama needs his older brother right now. With a heavy heart, Philippe fires him, stating beautifully that Driss shouldn't spend his entire youth pushing an old man's wheelchair. The next morning, right as a newly styled Bastion delivers the daily croissant, Driss packs his bags. Magali comes to say goodbye, and when Driss shoots his final desperate shot, she introduces him to her partner, Fred, short for Frederic. Turns out Magali was never into men. Driss gracefully concedes defeat. On his way out, he returns the baby monitor to Yvonne, laughing at how she played him. In return, she hands him his old escort file, only for Driss to realize that the old photo of Philippe was hidden inside it all along. He tosses the file but keeps the photo. Outside, history repeats itself. Another car is blocking the driveway. Even though he doesn't work there anymore, Driss confronts the driver. When Adama asks why he cares, Driss simply smiles. It's a matter of principle. Later, the brothers reunite with their mother at the train station. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Philippe's new caretaker is painfully rigid and clinical. Starving for real human connection, Philippe refuses to eat a single bite and abruptly leaves. With Yvonne out on a lovely date with the gardener, there's no one around to stop him. Days pass, and Driss settles back into his old neighborhood. He firmly warns the local thugs to leave Adama alone for good. During a job interview for a position he's wildly underqualified for, Driss channels everything he learned from Philippe, speaking eloquently about art and calling himself pragmatic. It works flawlessly, landing him a professional driving job. But across town, Philippe is sinking into a deep, miserable depression, rejecting every new caretaker. One painful night, Philippe suffers an intense phantom attack, refusing help from anyone. Desperate, Yvonne calls the only man who can save him, Driss. And that brings us full circle, right back to the high-speed police chase and the clever hospital trick from our opening scene. After their little adventure, Driss drives Philippe all the way to the coast, where the serene sight of the crashing waves finally soothes Philippe's soul. Sometime later, Driss shaves away Philippe's overgrown beard and takes him out to a beautiful seaside restaurant. But Driss doesn't sit down. Today, Philippe has a different dining partner. Driss wishes him luck, quietly sets the lost Fabergé egg on the table and walks away. Philippe panics at the thought of being left alone, until he looks up. Walking toward him is Alina. She smiles, absolutely delighted to see him, looking past the wheelchair entirely. In real life, Count Philippe Pazzo di Borgo relocated to Morocco, remarried and raised 2 daughters. The real-life Driss, whose true name is Abdul Yasmin Sello, started his own successful business, married, and had 3 children. To this day, their extraordinary bond remains unbroken. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more incredible cinematic stories. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.